Hi, I'm Nadeem, and in this channel we talk about personal growth and self-improvement related stuff. And today we're here with the book The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. It's all about timeless lessons on wealth, greed, and happiness. So in today's video, we will discuss the introduction part of the book and also discuss the first 5 chapters of the book, which are The Greatest Show on Earth, No One's Crazy, Luck and Risk, Never Enough, Confounding Compounding, and finally, getting wealthy versus staying wealthy. So, getting on to the introduction part, which is entitled as The Greatest Show on Earth. In this part, Morgan illustrates the unpredictable nature of wealth and happiness through the contrasting stories of two men, Ronald Read, who is a janitor, and Richard Foscone, who is a former Merrill Lynch executive. Ronald, despite his modest occupation, amassed an $8 million fortune through frugality and wise investing. And in contrast, Richard, who had a prestigious career, high income, and also Harvard educated with an MBA, declared bankruptcy because of excessive spending and debt. Morgan uses these stories to highlight the importance of financial behavior over financial intelligence, emphasizing that how you manage your money is more important than how much money you make. And this sets the stage for the book's exploration of the psychological aspects of personal finance and often overlooked behavioral factors that influence financial success. With this, getting on to the first chapter, which is No One's Crazy. In this chapter, Morgan argues that financial decisions are often influenced by personal experience and emotions, leading to the wide variety of seemingly irrational behaviors. He explains that people's financial choices may appear crazy to others because everyone has a unique perspective shaped by individual background and experiences. Morgan illustrates this point by highlighting how the people who lived through different economic conditions, such as Great Depression or periods of economic boom, have different attitude towards risk, saving, and investing. Like the people who lived through 1950s, that's after World War II, which was considered as best phase for stock market, might have the mindset of investing more than saving, taking more risk. But the people who lived through Great Depression, which started with 1929's stock market crash, might have the mindset of being on the safer side, taking less risk and saving more. So in summary, this chapter teaches that you should not judge people for their financial decisions, because your judgment is based on your personal experiences with money. But everyone has a different experience and different relationship with money. Therefore, understanding this and valuing other people's perspectives about money is crucial. Now, talking about the second chapter, which is luck and risk. In this chapter, Morgan explores the role of luck and risk in financial success and failure. He argues that luck and risk are powerful forces which are often overlooked or misunderstood, emphasizing that individual success stories are often shaped by fortunate circumstances just as much as they are by personal efforts. Morgan illustrates his point with the story of Bill Gates, highlighting how Gates' access to a high school computer in early 1970s was an extraordinarily rare opportunity that played a significant role in his success, as having a computer in a high school at that period of time was not common, not even in big reputed schools. At the same time, he contrasts this with the story of Kent Evans, a friend of Gates who was equally talented but tragically died young, showing how luck and risk can alter the outcomes unpredictably. Morgan stresses the importance of humility and gratitude, acknowledging that not all success is solely due to personal skills and decisions. Now, getting on to the third chapter, which is Never Enough. In this chapter, Morgan explores the concept of enough and the dangers of seeking more and more wealth without having a clear understanding of what truly fulfills us. He shares the story of an Indian businessman, Rajat Gupta, who started from being a very poor person to becoming a successful businessman with a multi-million dollar net worth, but then risked everything by engaging in insider trading. and ended up being in jail because he wanted more than he already had, despite being extraordinarily wealthy. Morgan argues that lacking a sense of enough can lead to poor financial decisions, greed, and eventually downfall. He emphasizes that knowing when you have enough is a key component of financial wisdom and happiness. So, in summary, this chapter encourages the readers to understand the value of contentment and avoid unnecessary pursuit of more, which can lead to stress and dissatisfaction. So, understanding and appreciating what is enough in life is crucial to maintain balance and avoid unnecessary risks. Now, talking about the 14th chapter, which is Confounding Compounding. In this chapter, Morgan explores the power of compounding and how it's often misunderstood or underestimated in personal finance. He illustrates this concept with the example of Warren Buffett, whose immense wealth can be largely attributed to his decades long investing career, allowing compound interest to work its magic over time. Morgan points out that compounding is not intuitive to most of the people because its results are not immediately visible, leading money to undervalue its potential. He emphasizes the importance of patience and thinking long term in investing, as even small returns can grow exponentially if given enough time. So, in summary, this chapter teaches that understanding and leveraging the power of compounding can lead to extraordinary financial outcomes, but it requires patience, discipline, and focus on the long term. Now, talking about the last chapter for today, which is chapter 5, Getting Wealthy versus Staying Wealthy. In this chapter, Morgan distinguishes between the skills required to accumulate wealth and those required to preserve it. He argues that getting wealthy involves being optimistic, taking risks, and seizing opportunities, while as staying wealthy requires humility, caution, and the ability to manage fear. Morgan emphasizes that surviving financial challenge is more important than maximizing returns, as staying in the game allows compounding to work over time. He shares the story of Jess Livermore, a successful trader who first made a fortune by being able to successfully predict the 1929 stock market crash and made around $3 billion in a single day. But after 4 years, things changed. Jess, overflowing with confidence, made larger and larger bets, which led to increasing amount of debt, and which eventually led to Jess taking his own life. And all this was majorly because of his inability to balance the two aspects, that is, getting wealthy and staying wealthy. And that's it for today. I'll see you again next week with further more chapters. And I also highly recommend you buying a copy of this amazing book for yourself. The link will be given in the description below. Thanks for watching.